everybody, and welcome to Activating Youth Activism. My name is Simphiwe Masilo, and I am too happy to be your host as I have with me Hajar-Ahjmun Mathee, as I like to call her sometimes, Kagiso, because she's cute like that. And today we're going to be speaking about the intersection of health and activism with a focus on the front of pack labeling. Haja is not only just a special friend of mine who I adore and love and look up to, but she's also a university student at the University of the Western Cape, where she studies medical bioscience. She's a self-acclaimed intersectional feminist, a young leader of note, a multilingual national policymaker, and that's on period. As you can see, we have the SAY Gap logo behind us. This is the policy that Haja has helped to create. She is a United Nations accredited author, 2 times, might I add. At 16, she published her first journal article on intersectional feminists, and she's currently the deputy chairperson of the Palestine Solidarity Association of UWC. Hi, Haja. How are you?
Good evening to all of your listeners, and thank you so much for having me. I'm doing fantastic. Hope you are too.
So at 16, you published your very first journal, and that is a very young age. And that's a very big achievement. So props to you.
Stop.
Because, wow. Since then, how would you say your view on gender activism has changed?
Getting into gender activism and understanding feminism and all of that, I always saw it as a, to the big, great, wide world, I need to show that I am this gender activist, that I care about women, that I want to advocate for our rights or whatever. And I think that is a big part of what inspired me to write the article. It's that I wanted to show, I'm not going to keep quiet about this. I'm going to speak up and I'm going to speak loud. And I am a self-acclaimed acclaimed feminist, intersectional feminist, that is. Since then, I think a big part of my activism is I've come to realize it starts at home. It starts with your close family, with your friends. It starts by admitting to yourself and those that you love the most that you are this person, that this is what you stand for, and that this X, Y, and Z is things that you're absolutely not going to compromise on, things that you view this certain way. Because I think that, so this posting online, obviously, right, that is letting the whole world know that this is where you stand, that this is important or whatever. But in terms of changing, it starts at home.
I'm really glad that you spoke about it starting at home, because this brings us right into the topic at hand, which is front of pack labeling. Now, according to UNICEF, front of pack nutritioning labeling of foods and beverages refers to nutrition labeling systems that are presented on the front of food packages with the aim of supporting consumers to make healthier food choices at the point of purchase by delivering simplified and at a glance nutritional information. Now, I know you did a lot for the South African Youth Gender Action Plan, and there's a pillar in that action plan that speaks specifically to gender and health. And I wanted to ask you, how do you translate the policies that you've written, including the policies on front of pack labeling? And in South Africa, we currently have the draft R3337 front of pack regulation. How do you translate that to home?
You see, this is, I think when it comes to food and when it comes to nutrition, you diving into quite a difficult, tricky topic. It's a very, very nuanced subject because, you have got so many factors to consider. There's the economy, there's budget, there's your family's likes and preferences, there's your cultural factors, there's your where you spend your time, your environment, all of these different factors to consider. And so before we even get into actually understanding nutrition and understanding what's what's good for you, your body's different requirements, needs, etc. You need to understand all of these different, why are people choosing the different foods that they are choosing? Why are they going for these specific products? Because that is ultimately, I mean, you know, they're going to find themselves in a particular shop, in a particular aisle at a particular time, and they're going to be choosing these various food products based on all of those things. So if we say your typical university student, for example, they've got 500 rand on them, and that has to last them everything for the whole month. But you need to take into consideration that they've got classes, so they want to, and they're studying obviously, so they want a quick meal, right? So let's say they find themselves in the aisle with pasta and 2-minute noodles and all of these things, all of these products. They're probably going to go for the pack of 2-minute noodles rather than the egg noodles that are going to take maybe a little bit longer. And not because they just thinking about the first thing in their mind isn't health. They're thinking, what's going to make me full? What's going to be really quick to make? They're not going to consider, you know, all of the different things that we've written in the policy about labeling actually being quite difficult to understand, because, you know, when they say low fat, they don't actually mean low fat. And they're not going to think about, low fat versus medium fat. You know, they're not going to consider all of these different things. And I think that's what makes it really difficult when we're writing our policies and we're commenting on different policies, and then actually applying that to everyday life. And again, that is just one person in one particular scenario that we're considering. I mean, we can go about the older individual, we can look at the cancer patient, we can look at the single mother. I mean, there's so many different situations and scenarios to consider, which is what makes food and nutrition particularly, and then coming to front pack labeling, so difficult to get into.
Education is key, 1,000%. And I mean, it's pillar number one in the SAY gap, gender education and capacity building.
And I'd say, I mean, even with your video and you mentioned it, you shared it on LinkedIn, and I remember watching it and thinking first and foremost, oh my God, I did not know that. And that scared me to the core. And, you know, maybe that's what you need. You need one big, horrible fact to shock you so that you can get into educating yourself more about it and understanding that, you know, I mean, what did they say that all of these non-communicable diseases, all of these chronic diseases, firstly, they're curable and they are man-made. They are curable and they are man-made. Because these diseases didn't come, they haven't existed for centuries. They've come around because of how we've treated our bodies. And I mean, studies show, tracing back to these food products, certain food products coming about, certain processes coming into play. As a result of these diseases have come up. And showing how it impacts our next generations, that these diets are not sustainable, that these diets are not, I mean, you can go into environmentally friendly and all of these different parts.
So Section 27 and Section 28 of the South African Constitution speak heavily on people's rights to access to sufficient foods. And with that being said, for those who aren't aware, I've been a self-acclaimed nutrition baddie for a minute now. And I've been going around doing a lot of interviews. And one of them was was a YouTube interview. So similar to this, where a lot of the blame and responsibility for ensuring that people have nutritious food, especially children have nutritious food, was placed on parents. And my response to that was that if government and big food companies are not taking the onus to ensure that people are educated and are aware of what goes into their bodies, we cannot solely put blame on parents. You just gave an example of the student. What about example of a mom who, it's 5 o'clock, she just knocked off work, she picked up her kids are hungry, they want a quick snack, and she's going to grab whatever because that's what's easy. And in her knowledge, that big box of cereals with the colorful teddy bear that's meant to attract her kids is going to keep those kids quiet now. However, going back to the Constitution, Section 27 and 28 stipulates that we all have right to sufficient food. But that knowledge to sufficient food and how we get that sufficient food isn't provided. So I'm going to throw the question that's been given to me to you. Whose responsibility is it to ensure that we not only have sufficient food, but we also define sufficient food as sufficient, nutritious, and healthy food?
You went straight for the elephant in the room. And I think this is a huge one. Like you're saying, yes, it's all, I mean, it's we blame the parents, and I mean parents do have a certain responsibility, obviously, to ensure that their children are receiving the proper nutritious food, and that, that their children are viewing things in a certain way. They're understanding what they need and whatever. But it is obviously also, what is that parent's circumstances at that point in time? What is going on in their lives? Like you're saying, you're looking at a single mother, for example, and I mean, how there are I think 16 products on the VAT free list. I know there's currently a court case going on to add a couple of more products to that. But you think about all of these different nuances. What about accessibility to these different kinds of foods and whatever? And what is going to keep these children quiet? What are these? And then, I mean, we can go a bit deep into the issue, and we can think about allergens. We can think about all of these product placement, for example. I mean, supermarkets literally have managers hired to manipulate the way that you look at which products you go after, and which products you're not going to go after. I mean, have you ever noticed how every 6 months, it's between every 4 to 6 months, a supermarket will always shuffle up the layout of the shop itself. And the reason for this is because then, that 4 months or that 6 months later, you're going to go into the shop and you're going to walk past and be like, the bread isn't here anymore. And then you're going to end up walking along the chips aisle to get to the bread. And then as you're walking past the chips, you're going to think, oh, chips sound really nice. Chips look really good right now. I think I'm going to take a bag of chips. And then by the time you get to the bread, you've grabbed a bunch of other things. And now, you're a little bit under budget. So now you're going to think, okay, but I really wanted the packet of chips. So let me definitely take the packet of chips, and then I'll take the bread. And then the milk, maybe we can say, okay, the milk I'll take, but then that means the lettuce I'm going to have to save for another day, hey? Yeah, okay. You know what? It's fine. The lettuce was a bit more expensive anyways. The chips are going to last me longer. So let me just take that. And so why do we never stop and question supermarkets? Why do we never stop and question the different tactics that are put into place? I mean, I only know this. I don't know if this is a common knowledge thing, but I chose consumer studies when I was in high school as a subject. And this manipulation technique was something that we had to study and learn about all the different ways that supermarkets manipulate you. And then, I mean, like you mentioned, the government as well. If it is such a big thing to ensure that, kids are getting nutritious healthy, then why are there only 16 products on the VAT-free list? Why are we gatekeeping and limiting so many nutritious products? Why are we not allowing and ensuring our food goes through more rigorous processes?
Sure. And I mean, misinformation on the packages of food is a really big reason why people
absolutely
choose the wrong foods. And thus we're saying again, please implement the R3337 front of pack regulation.
Implement it, please.
So with that being said, I ask you, Hajar, you've been my beautiful guest, and I always love having conversations with you. What is your parting words, your final commentary?
Start at home. And it's arguably the hardest thing that you can do. And I've come to realize this in years. I mean, I'm still not brave enough to entirely stand up, to my family and friends. And I say that, I mean, it's very difficult, especially, I mean, when you coming home with a carrot and the rest of your family. I mean, I always think of the scene from Matilda, hey? Where they're all sitting in front of the TV, and she's like, I don't want to have chips and burgers. I want to eat veggies. And she makes like a flapjacks or a pancakes while the rest of them are busy eating marshmallows for breakfast. I always think of that scene, and I think about how she ends up being forced into a room. And unfortunately, that's the reality of most situations, is that, you're going to be frowned upon by a lot of people. But I want you to just like take a sat and think about your own body. Think about how your body feels. How do you feel when you are consuming a lot of unhealthy snacks? I don't know. I mean, you can uh, think about how many times you're going to the bathroom a day. Think about how you're feeling during the day. Think about all of these different things. And also then I want you to reflect on, um, is what you're being told necessarily factual and the truth, or is it just a marketing strategy? And then take that back home and teach that to those around you, your family and your close friends. And I think that is my parting words.
I love that so much. Now, Haja, you and we've been in rooms with presidents, we've spoken in front of ministers. And let me tell you guys something, it is still scarier to start at home. So those are very brave parting words, but you can do it. You can do it.
It's almost like when you're shouting at a minister, you're like, okay, you know what, it's fine. I'm going to see you today. I'm going to scream at you today, and then I'm not going to see you tomorrow. I'm probably not going to see you for the next 6 months after this. So it's fine if I scream at you. But if I scream at my mommy, don't buy the chips, buy the carrots. I'm going to have to see my mommy in 20 minutes from now. And then she's just like, she don't want to feed me. Then what? So yeah, no, absolutely. We understand that it's definitely very difficult, but yeah, if you can psych yourself up, then that's, yeah.
Thank you so much, Haja, for joining me on this episode of Activating Youth Activism, speaking about health, nutrition, especially about front of package labeling and the work that you've done. Please continue to push, continue to be the amazing role model that you are to myself and to so many other young girls who are looking up to you.